Welcome to Step Up Unfiltered, the home of uncensored conversations with extraordinary individuals, where we tackle life's biggest challenges and bridge division. Now, usually we are live on Luton Urban Radio on the second and fourth Thursday of every single month. However, guys, I had to take a holiday last week. I was in Ibiza. I shot something special for you in Ibiza. So we're now bringing the second episode to the third week. We also are on YouTube at step.up.coaching, where you'll find a lot of my coaching content, and you can also find us on Spotify the following Monday, so you will not have to wait long if you unfortunately miss us live on the radio. Now, to wait no further, to introduce you to an extremely special guest. Can you tell the people your name, your age, your occupation, and something fun that the audience may not know about you?
So my name is Shakil Hakim, I'm 29 and I'm an actor. Something fun. Now I've got to think about this one.
You're a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy, but see, these kind of questions, they always throw me off. These are the ones that always throw me.
Tell us somewhere you've been recently.
So I've just been to Iceland,
Wow.
which was amazing. Like, that's probably a fun fact. I'm a traveller. I love travelling. I love going around the world. And recently went to Iceland. That was amazing.
Tell us what Iceland's about, because I've never been.
Iceland it's like another world, man. It's like, honestly, it feels like you're stepping into a game. It's like going into like this unlocked level, and like everywhere is just beautiful. Traveling around. What was quite mad is that they, in the summer, they obviously don't really have, because where they're positioned in the world, they don't have nighttime as much as we do. So when it's like 10 p.m, it looks like 12 in the afternoon.
No way.
So all of that was mad, but yeah, so beautiful, and like seeing like, you know, unactive volcanoes and all of these things is just, mad.
Did you do the lagoon?
I did do the
That's a
lagoon.
must.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you have to like tick off and say, I've done the lagoon. So you could post it and everyone's like, wow, I've done the lagoon. But it was amazing. It was really,
I've heard,
really.
isn't it really expensive for beers and stuff like that?
Do you know what? The place is expensive in general, but I think you have to kind of just go, look, I was only there for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
You take it for what it is, and then you got experiences. This is another thing. My thing is always like, if you're gonna spend your money on anything, spend it on experiences. So,
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I felt the exact same way about Marbella a few weeks ago. I was like, damn, this is expensive, all these tables and stuff like that, but you just enjoy it.
Experiences.
Worry about everything else when you get back. But just
sure.
enjoy it whilst you're out there.
For sure.
So we've got a lot to jump into.
Yeah.
The show.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get my teeth dug into the show. But tell me a little bit about, or tell us, should I say, a little bit about your background.
So I got into acting when I was a little bit younger, kind of figuring out what I was going to do and like what the right things were. I studied it for A-levels, and I was like, okay, cool, feels like the right thing to do. And a lot of my friends had studied it in A-levels and then gone off to drama school or gone off to like study other things. And I kind of had to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't really know what drama school was at the time, and I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do full time, but I'm interested. So I did a thing called the National Youth Theatre, which for a lot of actors, it's like a great opportunity. You do like a 2-week course maybe in the summer, or you do other courses that they do as well. And what was so great about that, it was an opportunity to just meet new people, but also just to like discover about yourself a little bit more as well, which was really nice. So I did that for a bit, and then I had a little bit of period of time where I didn't act, and then I did a lot of like youth company stuff. From that, managed to get an agent, and then.
So when you say youth company stuff, so what does that entail?
So like a youth company would be like, you, for example, would like meet up a bit similar to, like if you're in like an after school club or anything like that.
Okay.
But it's like longer in the week, so you'd meet up on like several days in the week. You would do like workshops and stuff, but particularly for the one that I did, it was, you were like putting together a show at the end of like 9 months.
Lovely, yeah.
So we met up like 3 times a week, did all these workshops with like directors and other actors and stuff. and then by the end of it, it would be you're putting on this show. And when we put on that show, quite luckily, like loads of people were interested in it, came to see it, and yeah, things kind of developed after that. Yeah.
Nice. So you just been drawing audiences in from there.
We've been trying. It's been a journey, man. It's been a journey, and I'm really grateful for things.
Of course.
like that.
I mean, to be fair, I mean you skipped all the way to A levels.
Yeah.
Was there like because there may have not been. Was there not like a passion to act from when you were young or anything like that?
I think when I was younger, I don't think it was as obvious. Like I don't think I had. Do you know like when you can pinpoint you want to do something, but you can't figure out exactly what it was. Like I knew I'd always be the kid, like my grandparents would come over and I put on like little shows or whatever, but I never really knew like it would be something I could make a career out of. It was just something I was always interested in.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean like you get people who say like they knew from a little kid that they wanted to be an actor. Did I know? Probably not, but I knew I wanted to be something similar to that or something in that area. So
very cool. I mean, it's interesting, right? Like Jude Bellingham, arguably Ballon d'Or, or at least top 3 for Ballon d'Or this year, and supposedly Jude Bellingham didn't want to be a footballer until quite late on his
this is it, yeah.
until he got older. And now he's one of the best.
Exactly.
So yeah, I always find that interesting.
I think it's interesting as well because there's so much life experience that will actually get you to the point of where you need to be as well. And you actually kind of have to trust doing the things outside of that actually help you like cultivate as a better human. Let alone like, you know, I don't think Jude knew the things that were going to bring him to where he was, but they've all helped him get to where he is now.
100%. I think a strong family background is big for that as well.
Yeah.
It's quite funny because I had a rapper on a couple of weeks ago called Cam Thomas, he's a friend of mine, and he was saying, because he's done all of these things and he pushes it to the limit, bodybuilding. He was part of a jerk group when he was younger. What else has he done that he's passed? Basketball. He went to go pro at basketball, and he was saying, I've never been a roadman or anything like that, but all of these experiences helped me rap about so much things. Helped me rap about so much stuff, you know.
Life experience.
So you're right. All the experiences can sometimes drag you to where you're gonna be.
Yeah, and I think it's universal as well. Like we all find different ways of getting to the things that we want, but the universal thing is like once you have that dream and that passion to just push for it. So yeah,
love that. You got that focus.
100%.
It's quite interesting because just before we were on, I was saying that like, you know, the only thing in GCSE that I actually got an A in, I got B's in everything, but one thing it was drama.
Mad.
I love drama so much, and I was really good at it.
Yeah.
But the only thing that stopped me pursuing it, and I'm so gutted I didn't pursue it. So gutted. I was saying it's simply because the 2 options at my school in 6th form were media studies, which was acting, or theatre studies. And theatre just threw me off because I was like, no, I don't want to be in plays, I want to be on the big screen. And then we're just saying, you know, someone that we both know, Chopper used to go to my school, he's a friend of yours. You see him in Gangs of London from theatre, I just thought, oh. I knew like a couple of years after, I was like, oh no, I messed up here.
But I think that's an interesting thing as well. Like, I don't think there's a straight path to acting, and I feel like that I'm still learning it now. Actually, I'm still like finding that a little bit more, but I think a lot of people assume like you have to do XYZ to get to these places, and the reality is like yeah, you can do theatre studies and get into a theatre, be like Chopin and do amazing. The reality is you can do theatre studies and then never do a job again. So I feel like I also feel like I say this to a lot of people when they go, oh, I wish I did this. I'm like, it's never too late. Look at people like, what's his name?
He's Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
He made it. I was like, do I? Because he didn't start acting until he was 28.
Bro,
I think I was 27 at the time. I was like, ooh.
It's time. No, but bro, I say this all the time. It's never too late. There is never a time. And actually, I say this to a lot of my mates because obviously, like now coming into my like late 20s, I'm a lot of the time I feel like there's this conception that like we should get things done as early as possible. Like you should get this job, you should do this, you should do that. The reality is most people don't get into like the core of their career, especially acting wise, until they're like late 30s. So it's like there's always so much time, but we get caught up in like the societal things that we
Of
should
course,
do.
of course,
So,
of course.
yeah,
People got
so-
bills to pay, debt to pay.
Woo,
debt
yeah,
to
that's
their
the reality.
dreams.
Yeah.
That's literally what I do for my coaching business. It's
Yeah.
about helping people find their purpose, find their goals, what they actually want to do, set an action plan. And people don't realize how valuable that is because
Yeah.
people they have dreams, they don't do anything with it, they have goals, they don't do anything with it. Life gets in the way, they get stuck in a rut, then they're unhappy in life because they're not where they want to be. They're looking at social media, seeing people where they want to be, getting depressed, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. So yeah, then take us from, so you were doing kind of like the after school thing,
Yeah.
and then you got an agent.
Yeah, so got my agent from that, and I think that was quite daunting as well because when I was doing the youth company thing, I hadn't had that in my head. Like I was just like, I'm doing this because it's fun, I'm enjoying it. Like there's not really an end goal, and I don't think that it was ever promoted as a thing to be like, you'll do this and get an agent out of it. So that was never really like the top priority in my head. But once it happened, it was quite daunting because like I didn't realize how big of an agent they were. I also like was going up for like amazing stuff, and I was just so grateful for it. But if I look back, I don't know if I was ready yet. But from it, I was able to like really discover more about myself, and I feel like that's the most interesting thing with anything that I do. Even doing this play recently, I'm like, actually, what am I gaining about learning about myself? And actually, I think if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have decided to go back into training and go to drama school. So like, that was an interesting journey, I think.
So what was the main thing that you learned about yourself?
I think just that, I mean, really and truly, so I'd signed with them in 2018. So now I'd been doing like bits and bobs, and I'd done a lot of like commercial work and done loads of stuff. I was doing some acting stuff, but it wasn't really getting to where I was getting. And then the pandemic obviously happened, and it got to the beginning of 2020, and I'd done like loads of really big commercials, did a massive commercial for Diet Coke, and it was really well, and like everyone was like seeing me on the TV, or they were going to the cinema and seeing me, and I was like, crazy.
That must have been a good pill.
It was nice.
That must have been a good
It was
pill.
nice. I was able to move out, so it was nice. It was nice. I like moved out of my parents' house, like was able to like get my own place, and this was like top of 2020, and literally 2 or 3 months in, boom, pandemic, and I was like, damn. So then I was like stuck in a place by myself, trying to figure all that out, and then the time of all of that really helped me to like touch base with where I was at, specifically where I was at as an actor, because I think it got to like July, August, and I got like my first audition when the world kind of started opening back up again. And I always, whenever I get auditions, I always like send it to my mum. At the time, I was just like, my mum will give me the honest advice, tell me how it is, and like be real about it, and like not play about.
Of course.
And that's what I need as a person. I don't really enjoy people being like, oh yeah, you're great, da da da. So now just be real. Like if this isn't good, it isn't good. Like I'm fine, but I'm a big boy. I can handle it. So I sent her the tape, and then she called me, and I was like, oh, what's she calling me for? And she called me, she was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like what's up? She was like, that was the weirdest tape I've ever seen you do. And I was like, damn, like what was kind of feeling the type of way? And she was like, yeah, you just look really disconnected, like you didn't look part of it. And I don't know what it was, but I think in that moment I clocked myself and I went, damn, okay, for a long time I think I've been winging this.
Okay.
I think I've just been trying to do the best version that I can do, but not really had anything to like ground me. And then that was the moment I was like, do you know what, I think I want to apply for drama school and like get trained and like have at least something that I know I can fall back on. Not saying like, you know, not working for 6 months and being in a pandemic is going to happen again anytime soon. But at the same time, it's like, you know, would you rather be skilled at what you do or just have some good abilities to do things now and then? I'm like, I'd rather be skilled at what I do.
I love that.
So yeah, so then decided to go to drama school.
A lot I find that with coaching.
Yeah.
Like anyone can blow up online as like a social media personality, and then just say they're a coach.
Yeah.
And not have done any coaching in the past, or just spread positivity, spread loads of memes, and just say, yeah, I'm a coach. Book in a call with me, and they've got no cues to really help you. If anything, they actually mentor.
Yeah.
They're just going to tell you about their life experiences and how that might be able to help you. But I remember my job. I work in energy, and obviously we're the energy crisis. And I work in sales, so we were still getting paid and everything. We still had our jobs, but we had nothing to do realistically.
Yeah.
So I thought in that time, I'll actually do a certification, a diploma in performance coaching to become an actual coach, as opposed to just wing it.
Yeah.
I think that's so key to like have that foundation.
Oh, 100%.
But anyway, back to yourself. So drama school.
Yeah.
So you're in drama school, and then what's the first? Is it the show?
It's the show, yeah.
It's the show.
6 months before graduating, yeah. which is
So
crazy.
how did For Black Boys come up? What's actually the full length thing?
So
the audience.
The full title is For Black Boys Who've Considered Suicide When the Hue Gets Too Heavy.
And there you go. For all the idiots that commented on my post, like, oh my gosh, why is it for black boys? Why is it not for any boy? That is the reason. One, social media don't like the word suicide.
Yeah.
Two, it's way too long to fit in a post. And three, that's a shortened version, right?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people, it's quite easy to hear that title and have a perception of it, but the idea is, in the way that the writer of the play, and he's also the director, put it, is it's like giving someone a gift. Like, this is for people who have considered it. It's not necessarily, and a lot of people who would have come to see it would have seen that, like, actually it doesn't really get mentioned until the very end of the play. And I feel like there's so much joy, there was so much like power in around what makes that. Like, it's like giving something to someone to go, look, you may not ever need to read this or use this, but here is something for you.
Well, let's admit, like, the stigma is, that's the reason why I coach men. That's why the reason why my coaching business is men, because suicide is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
It's 3 times as high for men as women.
Yeah.
And that the stigma is so strong.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the black community, the
That's
stigma
another,
is like another
That's
battering
world,
ram.
man. That's
So that's
battle.
what it needs. It needs a punchy headline. When I heard the full headline, I was like, okay, that's grip to me. And I know from coaching people, black men don't come forward.
100%.
They like what I do. They like all the posts.
Yeah.
They're itching to maybe take a first step, but they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So we have a massive issue in our community alone, outside of just men.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's crazy. I can see, because we were talking about that just before, weren't we?
Yeah.
So
and
your
it's
barber
hard.
was.
Yeah, I mean, like I was at the barber, and I was like, trying to get as much black men and black people to come in and be involved. And I live in South London, Southeast London, in Camberwell, and I'm like super aware that I was like, I wanted to get the people around me. Like, I gave posters to my local coffee shop, like everyone. I was like, I want people to be there. And I gave it to my barbers, and I remember sitting in the chair. And I was like, oh, I'm in a play, like, on the West End. And there was this African pub looking at me like, what's the West End? Like, not fussed at all. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay. What's the play called? And I was like, oh, yeah, it's this. And I took it out. And he was like, hey, what's that word? And I was like, what, suicide? He's like, yeah, I'm not watching anything with suicide in it. And I was like, well, that's not the point. But also, sometimes you have to choose your battles. I think there was a part of me being like, look, maybe I pray someone would have watched it and then recommends you to go and see it. But off the bat, I get it. But I think this is, like you said, these are making the steps to make people feel more comfortable to have these conversations.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like with the older generation, like the way you have to attack these conversations, you got to talk about something completely different, and then worm your way in.
And I think that's what the show
People
did.
take it that way as well.
Yeah, I think that's what the show did very well, especially because I think the show really captures a lot of generations as well. And I think as black people, as a culture, music and dance and all these things like unite us quite well. So like even like when my mum came, there were songs that were getting played that she grew up to.
Yeah, of course.
So then she could relate to things in the same way. So
there's a lovely mixture between the music that was modern
Yeah.
I remember even in the interval gigs was playing. I was like,
Yeah, talking
I was
hardest,
the crowd.
man.
Yeah, talking hardest.
Yeah.
I was gassed, man.
And we can hear that music as well. So there's something
I
really
was
like.
dancing in the crowd.
Yeah.
A non-alcoholic beer, sober.
Yeah, bro.
It was cold, but there was a nice mixture of music between old school, new
Yeah.
school. Honestly, it captured the audience so well. But
So well.
before we dig in, I want you to explain. So, how did For Black Boys come about?
Yeah.
And how did you get your role?
So contextually, so we're the second cast of this play. So the play, I believe, first started in 2021.
Yeah.
So it started at a place called the New Diorama, which is a very small theatre, and it was directed by a director called Tristan. He did an amazing job in getting this play to like where it was, and I think for both the previous cast and the previous creative crew, we would be nowhere without them.
Of course, yeah.
Like they walk so we can run, and like especially with Tristan, like it's a really weird full circle with Tristan as well, because Tristan directed the last show that I did at RADA before I left at drama school, before I left to do For Black Boys, and he was the original director of For Black Boys. And it came, the idea was that Ryan Callie Cameron, who's the writer of the play, it came from an original play that's
Actually,
called...
so I just butt in there.
Oh, yeah.
Was the writer and director, were they both black?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's the original director, Tristan, and then Ryan, who's the writer, also became the director for
This one.
Yeah. So it came from a original choreo poem from Tasanga Shange, which is called For Colour Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When Hue Is Not Enough.
Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, and that's it was a play, it was also a film, and like that was the inspiration for everything that Ryan then went on to write for Black Boys. And I think Ryan, he'll say in his own words, like we've spoken about this, like I think he was captured by the idea of there are so many Western views of how you do plays, but this was like, nah, we're gonna add music, we're gonna add dance, we're gonna add everything, poetry, all of it. So it was at the New Diorama, and then it went to the Royal Court, which is a theatre in London, quite a big theatre as well. And then it went to the West End, it went to the Apollo Theatre, and then this was the fourth version and the second time that it was in the West End. So
that's where I saw you.
Yeah, exactly, at the Garrick,
And how did you get your role?
So it was a journey. I obviously was still at drama school at the time, and I was doing the play that I was saying with Tristan, and there'd been kind of like rumblings that they were auditioning for it, but I didn't know what was going on at the time. And obviously I'm in drama school, so you can't audition for stuff, so I wouldn't have been in the loop anyway. And then it just so happened that I had done a show and someone had reached out to me and been like, oh, just to let you know, like, I've put your name forward for the casting director who's like doing the show. And I was like, oh, crazy. And then the next day I found out I had an audition for it, and I was like, okay, if I'm in the room, I'm staying in the room. I'm gonna do whatever I can to stay in this room and like get this job. And you had to like prepare a monologue and prepare like one of these scenes. And I remember the day that I went into the theatre to do one of the scenes, and there was a handful of the boys that then ended up getting the job. And it was funny because even if I look back now, I could always tell that they were going to be the ones.
That's crazy.
There was just something about like the vibe and the connection. Even one of the boys, I was kind of like sitting by myself at the table, like looking after my lines and trying to like figure out like, okay, cool, what am I going to do? And he came and was like, oh bro, like, do you want to come over here? Like, we're having a chat, like, what's your name? And he was so like helpful, got the job as well. And I said it to him, I was like, do you remember that? He's like, yeah. And I was like, but it's one of them things that, you know, when you give out good energy, things just come in place. And
that's true.
Yeah.
And how many people were applying?
So by the time I'd seen, so you had to do a self-tape originally, like so you record yourself doing the audition and you send it in. And then by the time I think we were in person, there was probably about maybe like 50 people in that, like coming up to them last rounds.
Who
made the final cut, yeah. And yeah, they kept on cutting from there onwards really. And yeah, it was an interesting dynamic because another thing that adds to this whole sort of story is when I was still in drama school, I was working part-time at the theatre that it was at before me. So the West End theatre that it was just at, it was at another West End theatre before that, the year before, and I was working there whilst it was on. So that was a whole nother thing. I'd seen it every night and like been in it. So in the audition process, I was aware that I had like known so much, which was a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's mad. That is actually mad. That's crazy. We've got 20 seconds
Yeah.
to the ad break. I'm just gonna ask you a very, very quick question.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy doing outside of acting? Quick fire round.
Love music.
Music.
Like, yeah, that's my heart.
R&B man.
Yeah. Man.
Hip hop.
Yeah, all of it.
Okay. Bless. Right. We're going for a break, and when we come back for Black Boys, we are back for more for Black Boys chat. I know the name throws people off, but is it just for Black Boys?
Do you know what is so interesting? I think it's so easy to see a name and get lost in it.
Agreed.
Of course it's not just for Black Boys. You could swap this title out and be for anyone. But I think the reality is just culturally and societally, I think we've got a lot of work to do to make black people and especially black men feel more comfortable talking about their emotions. But I feel like there was so many non-black people that have come to see the play, and we're so grateful for that. so grateful.
So many. There's so many. So I went to see the show.
Yeah.
And the audience was very, very diverse. A lot of white people. And not just like, obviously there were like, you know, the white mums with the victory songs. But like, no, like there were geezers, there was everyone, old white people, old white couples. Like, it brought out everybody.
But also other races, Indian people, Asian people, yeah.
Black people that don't go to the theatre like me.
Yeah, and I think what's really important as well, like, I think sometimes people forget. So I grew up in West London, and I went to school in North West London, so in Harrow. And Harrow is a very diverse area. Like, there are some areas near Harrow to like South Harrow that's very sort of, has a really strong like Indian and Sri Lankan like demographic. And then other areas are very like, you know, like Polish, like there's so much mixture. So me going to school, I've just been used to being around different races and like people who speak differently, and you might hear people who speak quote unquote rude, but they're not black. Like, I've just been used to that. So I think when sometimes there's this perception that things are only for certain people, but then what do you do for people that have always grown up in a multicultural environment or grown up loving reggae music and rock music because their neighbours from Jamaica and their other neighbours
100%.
from like England? Like, that's just the reality of life. And I feel like there was never a time when this play was ever turning away anyone. If anything, it was like, let's have more people understand this journey. And I think that's the most important.
That's so interesting, because that's just brought me to a memory. One of my white best friends, Tom, he would have more of an issue with somebody saying the N-word around me than some of my black friends. And you're right, it depends on where you're from. Like, we're both from Luton, but I went to a private school. Whereas he went to a school in Luton where it was so diverse. So he couldn't even dream of saying that word.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, other people might say it when they've had a beer and it becomes a problem. But he would be one of the first to try hype up about it.
Yeah.
And some of my black friends would be like, so I do find that interesting. You're right, yeah. When people come from like a background where it is just so diverse,
100%.
it affects how they think differently.
Yeah, and I think there is.
It's not just a colour thing.
It's not just the colour thing, and it's, look, especially black culture has found its way into so many different genres and things, and there are so many things that like have come from things that we've done out of trauma. We can go back in history. There's so many things. Rock and roll, R&B, like all of it has come from somewhere, and this is why you're seeing a lot now of people like reclaiming that, like country music, for example, and like Beyonce's now released a whole country album because I don't know, it's a whole other conversation. But do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like reclaiming these things, but it's also saying everyone has an opportunity to be involved in this, but let's just appreciate the things that have happened along the way in order to make these things. And it's not about like pushing one group of people away and saying, oh, you're not allowed to be part of this. It's actually saying, let's look at this, but let's everyone look at this.
Everybody understand these different black perspectives that your friends have come through.
Exactly.
Or even people that you don't understand.
Exactly.
Get to learn, get to know.
And I think a lot of people said that, like, I've got like loads of like non-black mates and white mates who are like, bro, I never knew you even went through that. Or like, is that something you've gone through? And it's like, you know, especially with my character, I think a lot of people were so shocked. Like, oh my God, you're nothing like your character. I'm like, yeah, obviously, an actor. But at the same point, it's opening the conversations, being like, so have you ever felt like that? And actually, I mean, we'll get onto specifically my character, but like, there are things that I felt of like not feeling black enough and all of these things. And that's, I think, an interesting dynamic as well.
I could honestly relate to so many of the characters.
Yeah.
So many of the characters. I've even had a stage like that, and I hope you say this. Literally, when I went from my school before, my primary school, where it was a private school again in Luton, but you know, I was the boy or whatever, like all good. Now I went to this private school that was like half an hour down the road. And I was struggling to like find my place like the first couple of years. And literally one of my best friends now, literally, I'm gonna be his head groomsman. Literally, me and him used to always butt heads, and I used to get called the white boy in our group when I hang with the black people. Not that there was many of us. But it's so interesting that dynamic. I've had that dynamic where I'm like, I'm thinking we're gonna have to come to blows. Because it got that bad at some stages, but now we're best friends. And we wouldn't even think about that now. He hates when I bring it up, but I bet it's so relevant to that.
100%.
But then there's so many perspectives. The black guy that feels like he needs to fight with the aggression. The black guy that feels like he needs to sleep with loads of girls. I wouldn't say that's. I wouldn't say that. I felt like I needed to.
Yeah, but no, there's so
many.
many things, and I think what was so great is that where a lot of the time there's this. It's funny because I just watched this interview of this amazing show that's on at the moment called Supercell on Netflix.
Is it good?
It's amazing. It's things like the #1 show on Netflix at the moment. Like in the world. And they were interviewing and they were like, actually what's so lovely about that show is that it's set in South London, but it doesn't give you one perspective of what it's like being black in South London or black in London. And one of the actresses, you were saying like, you know, as black people, we're not a monolith. And that comes up in the play as well. And like a monolith being like one version that is the explanation for all black people. Like we're not that. Like there is it's hard as well because people see, you know, comedians out on TV, or they see versions of people in TV and film, and you go, oh, that's what a black person's like. And it's actually like, no, here is 6 different versions of black men who are all trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah,
and that was the joy of doing that play.
The black man is seen as the big, aggressive, great at sport. You know, as cheap as it sounds, big piece. That is literally the stereotype.
And that will travel with you for ages. And I think for a lot of my life as well, I was trying so hard to be against that as much as I could do. And then and this goes even deeper, it's probably a conversation with my therapist, but like, then you don't realise how much of like this anti-black speech you're given from society that you end up perpetuating in how you navigate the world. And then I had to go, wait, am I hating the world or myself?
I need to jump in here, because I don't really listen to Dr. Umar.
Nah, Dr. Umar.
But
shout out to Dr. Umar.
But
he made the star of the show.
He wouldn't like some of the choices of the women I'm dating.
Yeah.
It's nobody.
Yeah.
However, there's nothing wrong with Snow Bunnies.
I
love Snow Bunnies. I love Black Queens. However, he made such an interesting point, because I am so against. I hate when white people say the N-word. Like, I'll be the first person to kick off about it. And I had to learn as I got older to just calm down, because it's not worth my fighting people when black people are around saying it. And I don't even like really when black people say it. Like, I've never really tried to say it myself. It stopped me getting close to some groups of friends in my younger years. And he said, like, the reason why it's such a popular phrase, like, you don't hear the Jews talk about the offensive words that happened to them in the Holocaust. They stamp that out real quick. But we say it because we see less of ourselves.
Yeah.
We see less of ourselves to white people. So that's the reason why we're like a joke. So we continue to say this word that literally puts us down, and we've now made that culture. And I thought that was so interesting. It's a form of self-hate, and I think that's 100% facts.
100%.
You don't think that in your head when you say it,
yeah.
but when you deep it, it really is.
And I think it's almost like being in school, and like, I'm quite lucky in school. I never really necessarily got bullied, but you know, you have that banner in the same way that you have with your friends, and it's very easy that banner can kind of go over the level where you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But I would always be like, get there first. If someone's gonna make a joke about you, either make the joke like self-deprecate and get there first, or like be quicker and smarter. And I feel like it's almost similar to like us using the word is like, well, I'm gonna claim it before someone else uses it against me. And I'm like, there are a lot of people who kind of say this thing of like, you know, reclaim the word and we can now use it and have our own power.
Yes.
Has anyone seen the dictionary? Do you know how many more words there are in the world, but we want to choose that word? There are so many other words we can use. I think about nowadays, and this is how I'm like, this is my like indicator of how I'm slowly getting old, because I'll go on like TikTok or Instagram and there'll be words I say, yo, what does this mean? I'll be like, I remember for ages, for like this, I'm not even that old, I'm only 29, but I remember like when Riz started being a word, I said, what's Riz? What's everyone saying Riz? But it just shows the power of one person can start using a word and then everyone's using it. And this is my point. Yeah, we can reclaim that word if you want to. Good for you. But there's other words you can reclaim. Like,
of course.
There's other times you can be using.
It's the worst word.
Yeah.
It's the worst word. There's not a worse word. There's not a more offensive word to me than that word. Call me a C word, call me whatever you want.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the word that offends me personally the most. It's like you know, like when like an OnlyFans girl, someone like that, or someone strips and they say, but this is a form of like power, and I get confidence out of this. I'm like, but really?
Yeah.
Not really. Not after the shift. Not when you're doing it every single day. There's gonna get moments when it's gonna get deep.
Yeah, and I think I don't know where that kind of phrasing has come from, because
it's basically like I've got enough shows with OnlyFans girls and whatnot, and it's basically the way they see it is as well, like all these stupid men, well, I'm gonna just earn their money and I don't care anything about them.
Yeah,
that's where it's from.
Which is fair. I mean, for me personally, I'm like, do what you want to do. Like, don't feel like you need to. I think it comes from this place of proving your worth.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the N-word, it's the same with anything else. It's the idea of like, I need to prove to you that I'm enough, so I'm going to do this. And I'm like, fair, but you can do that without saying anything at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where it is. So I'd never come on here and be like, oh, don't do OnlyFans, don't do this. Do what you want to do, but don't feel like you need to prove yourself for other people, because the reality is, yes, fair enough, there is an imbalance, and there has been between men and women, and equality and equity and all that stuff. But I feel like actually the people that are just doing things and are being unapologetic about it, they're not the ones that need to be screaming, I'm doing this because of this. They're just doing it.
And not crying on Instagram and going crazy.
They're just doing it.
They're just doing it. I hear that. I like that. So before we get into the real meat of Black Boys, we need to congratulate this man for graduating.
Oh, bless you, bro. Thank you.
How on earth did you juggle for Black Boys and drama school? That's crazy.
Yeah, it kind of just happened. It kind of just, I don't think there was necessarily a thought process about it. I think it was just, I gotta do this. Like, there's I'm such a nerd, but there's a quote from Star Wars, I think it's from Yoda, and it's like, there is no like try, there's either can or cannot. And that was what I saw it as. I was like, I mean, I've got two options. I either do the play and do drama school, or I don't do the play and I look back at all the things I could have missed.
Amazing. And
like see posters on the tube with someone else's face. And I was just like, no, this is the opportunity and it's come. And I said this to myself when I got that audition, and it's mad. I don't know if you believe it and some people don't, but I'm a big believer of like manifesting and like, you know, manifesting the things that you want in your life. I remember getting that audition and seeing that email, and I looked at it and I was like, if I'm getting in this room, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm gonna do whatever that means to be in that space. And once I got it, I was like, yeah, it's fine, we'll make it work. I mean, quite luckily, my school was really supportive about it. So I let them know in like December before we started rehearsing in January. And they were like, yeah, if you get it, we're gonna have your back. And they did. And essentially, the 6 months that I did doing the show was the equivalent of what I would have done in my final year. So they managed to like make that work. And yeah, I got assessed on it, which is quite mad. So like one of so the assistant director on the project was the like assessor for me, and yeah, he wrote amazing stuff. So I'm grateful.
I was about to say, you better have done.
Yeah, can you imagine?
You killed it, man. You
Oh.
absolutely killed it. Do you feel like have we described for Black Boys enough to the audience?
Yeah,
And
no,
can you
maybe
explain
I
a bit
will.
more about
Yeah,
your
yeah.
role as well, and some of the other
Sure.
roles as well.
So yeah. So for Black Boys is essentially 6 men who come to a therapy session. And kind of open their hearts and open themselves up to maybe conversations they never had. It's a beautiful mixture of like poetry, dance, music, everything that kind of unravels this world, and you kind of figure out their own individual journeys of what's brought them there, and also kind of where they're going in their lives. So there's 6 different characters. I play one of 6, and my character Pitch is kind of figuring out who he is in the world. I think he's like lived most of his life having an understanding of who he is based on the people around him, and then being forced into this world where he's talking to these other 5 guys and going, wait, what? I've been doing this my whole life. What do you mean like this isn't how it is? And his identity, his version of blackness, his all of that comes to question, and he kind of figures out what that means for him. And yeah, it's a beautiful journey where you get to see him. And I always say there's so much joy. I know people get lost in the title, but the play, there's moments when we were doing the play that it was hard to hold back the laughter, man. And it's for me, I love to laugh. So there's so much stuff that this play really got to bring and explore as well, which was great.
And could you just do a quick wrap up of the other characters?
Yeah, so all 6 characters are kind of figuring out their own journeys as well. So you've got, it's funny because I'm going to say the names, and probably people listening to this won't actually know that they ever had names.
You've got people that have seen them.
Yeah, so, but it's interesting because these names are never referenced.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I didn't know.
So you wouldn't have known names, but if you read the script, this is a plug, buy the copy of the script, you'll see that they all have different names.
You roughly describe them.
I'll describe them, because then it'll make it easy if you watched it. So my character Pitch, obviously I've explained it already, so he's kind of dressed like, almost like a kind of skater dude who's like, dressed maybe a couple of generations out, but he thinks he's really cool.
Yeah.
That's Pitch. And you've got Onyx, who's your quote-unquote like stereotypical roadman.
Yeah.
He's like do-rag, North Face jacket, like
Struggle to open up.
struggles to open up, and is going through life based on his circumstance as well. And I feel like that's really important for a lot of the characters are based around their circumstance, and that's a really big thing I think we forget sometimes, is that no one chooses to be the way they are. You're a product of your environment. So yeah, that's Onyx, kind of like the quote unquote roadman. Then you've got Sable, who is so these are all, I say, stereotypes of black men.
Yeah.
And what's so great about the show is that you see these stereotypes and then they're broken.
Yeah.
But Sable would be like the typical like light-skinned guy.
Yeah.
The guy who...
Galley man.
Yeah, the galley man, the gallis. The one that you go out on a party and you go, well, guess it's over for me. He's getting everyone. And he's like, dressed in like the finest sort of... Ashton from doing about to do a backflip at any point. And he is struggling through this idea of like his own identity in being this guy who gets loads of girls, who does all of this, but actually feels like he's got a heart to him that he wants to express, but is trapped in having this identity of who he needs to be.
Has
to be that man, has to be overly sexualized, has to be all of these things, and never really gets the chance to describe what he wants to be. And then you've got Obsidian, and Obsidian is, we were just talking about him, the closest thing as a joke would probably be Dr. Umar. So he's the one that, like, you know, he wears the African hat, he'll come and tell you my brother, and he'll be explaining Black history to you. But also, there's quite a lot of similarities through some of the characters, but I think as well, he's a person that's grown up based on the experiences around what he's experienced. And actually, him and Onyx, the roadman, they've kind of gone through a similar life, but sadly, he's experienced witnessing some quite traumatic things that have then made him be the person who he is, to be like, actually, no, I care about my people. And yeah, you may tease me and make fun of me and call me Dr. Umar, but actually, I want you to understand that there's more to being Black. And he's kind of like the voice of reason. So that's Obsidian. Then you've got Midnight. And Midnight
sounds like a WWE.
Yeah, Midnight. Coming forward as Midnight. Midnight's a really interesting character as well. So Midnight is kind of on the outskirts, but on a different way. He's the character that is aware of all of these kind of tropes, but sees flaws in so many things. So there's a really like big bit in the play where he says like F Black history, and everyone kind of goes, what do you mean F Black history? Like, that's mad, how can you say that? Like, Black history. But actually,
how you guys said it.
Yeah. But actually there's a curiosity that he has and an innocence about life that he's trying to understand, based again on his environment. You then found out like he has a lot of traumatic things that happened to him when he was a kid, but all of those things
that was cold when he said that. When he explained it, that was actually crazy.
But actually, there's so many similarities to him and Sable, who's like the girl's girl, and Midnight as well. He's like, we kind of say that he like communicates through music. He's a singer. Everything around him is like music based. There is an element of like, he's the one that's like flirting and chirping girls and doing all of these kind of things, but that comes from a deep rooted like trauma and misunderstanding about his life based on what he's been around. And there's a real heart to him of him trying to figure that out. So yeah, Midnight is probably one of the characters that are like the most like complex. And then finally you've got Jet. And Jet, again, all the characters kind of feel similar. So sorry, Midnight, if you obviously came to see it, so he's the one that was in like a green vest. They've all got colours, so if I say their colours, probably easy. So my colour was orange for Pitch, Midnight was green, Onyx was purple, Sable was blue, Obsidian was yellow. It's like Power Rangers. And then it makes a lot more sense because if you see the poster and stuff, you can reference it. And then the last one is Jet, who was in red. And Jet's going through a lot of stuff about identity as well, especially into like sexuality and trying to figure out, again, not too dissimilar from other people, like, why am I different because I'm the Black kid in school, and why are all the white kids getting all the attention? And it kind of, the play opens up with his character actually, like in this playground scene, trying to figure out like, why does no one want to kiss chase me, but they want to kiss chase this white boy? And there's so many layers to it. And towards the end of the play, he kind of becomes more comfortable with himself and figures out like the dynamic. But
the place that you used to go, I remember that.
And I think again, like, especially in the Black community, like, as much as, you know, mental health and stuff, sexuality and all these other things, there are massive taboos that we don't talk about. And what was quite nice actually is that, you know, some nights it was interesting because I think some people had a resistance to it, and not from a place of bad, but just when it's something you've not heard before, it can be a lot to take in.
Since he's on the TV,
someone's like, don't know if I can watch this. But actually, it was great that we got to have these conversations. And sometimes, do you know what? Sometimes it's good to feel uncomfortable because that's where change starts. And
that's the same as coaching, bro.
Yeah.
When people I always say to people, you need to stretch yourself out your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because that's when the growth happens.
100%.
If you do what's easy,
Yeah.
you actually become depressed by doing what's comfortable.
Oh, 100%.
Because then what's there to grow to, especially as men?
Yeah.
We have like an innate ability to want to conquer. And we've become a lot more civilized. That's not, you know, what's the word? Conquering another village.
Yeah.
But that might be being the best at work.
100%,
That might be
yeah.
going to the gym every day.
Yeah,
It can be smaller things.
Yeah.
But we've got something in us. You know, they say that young boys learn a lot better by moving around. They found that in many and many
Yeah.
studies. That's just how we are. So no, I completely agree.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of a summary of like all the characters, and yeah, there was so many similarities between them all, and I think actually when we first started rehearsals, all we do for like the first week is do a table read where everyone just reads the script.
Oh.
And
Can you also quickly tell us as
Yeah.
well? These guys were dancing,
Ah.
singing, rapping,
yeah,
spoken word, poetry,
yeah.
everything. How long did it take you to learn all of that?
So the entire rehearsal process was 5 weeks. So we had 5 weeks to basically learn it, routine it, get it in your body. And I think, you know, the joy of doing a play as well is you're learning it as you're doing it. So on the first night, there was still things that we hadn't figured out yet. But from the audience perspective, we're going to give you a show.
These guys were on point with the dance music, and there was a lot of dancing. And different types of dancing to different genres and whatnot.
Yeah.
These guys were on point.
Shout out to the boys, man. Talented.
And you're all different sizes as well.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing.
It's nuts.
Jet was
And-
small, you're
Yeah,
big.
yeah, bro, it's
that
mad.
black guy was like,
Yeah,
7 foot tall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nah, it
Crazy,
was.
man.
I think, you know, shout out to the creative team, but they did a great job in getting us all together because
amazing job.
I think not only did we gel so much, like those are my boys, like,
I
and
love that.
such a rarity as well because sometimes you can be in production and be like, I never want to see you lot again. Bye. Don't call me. Leave the group chat. Da, 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 da. But like, yeah, in the sort of month that the show's been over, like, yeah, we've had so much joy being together. So
I love that, man.
yeah,
Imagine getting kicked out of the group chat.
woo,
Mad thing. Because I want to ask you about that actually a little bit later about what the acting industry is really like.
Yeah.
But we've got half a minute left. What do you think was the most important perspective of all the characters? Quickly.
I think being able to have their voices being heard. I think like as a lot of time, I think black men, we don't speak. So I think everyone being able to have their voice and speak was a huge thing.
I'll get back to the show,
We
man.
gotta get back.
So, how was the show received critically and by our community?
Yeah, wow, interesting. By our community, you mean like black British? Do you mean black? Or
How many black? Would you get black Americans? You get
Yeah.
Alright, tell
Yeah,
me.
this is
tell me the
why.
whole. Alright, let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Let's do it all. Do it all.
I
I'm
think-
intrigued to know everyone's.
so it
So
did
critically at first,
critically it did very well, which
amazing.
I mean it did amazingly well, and I'm grateful, but it very much couldn't have. Like I think for a lot of us, so obviously the play had been on 3 times before at 3 different places, so it's garnered this success over time, and it's got to the place where, like, you know, having a show that was at a small theatre that was like 60 seats to then going to a West End theatre with 800 seats, it's a rarity. It doesn't happen for every play, and especially for a predominantly black play. So for us, we were aware that we were stepping into the shoes of someone else's success almost. Obviously, the writing is phenomenal. Like, you could just sit there and read the play and it would be great. But we were very aware that, like, the show was getting 5 stars and stuff before in the papers.
Yeah.
What happens if we go and they're like, oh, bring back the old cast?
That's all I saw was 5 star, 5 star.
Yeah, and we're grateful for that. And to be fair, there's probably people out there who are like, yeah, no, bring back the old cast. And that is so valid. But I don't think we
I don't wanna
take
bring
it...
back the old cast.
No, the old cast are phenomenal.
New cast.
That was very sweet. Nah, the again, I say, like, we wouldn't be anywhere without the old cast.
Be humble.
No. It's the reality. But I say that with a but. Like, what is so important is that actually we were given the space to be the most authentic versions of ourselves,
Amazing.
and really go, this is what we see for these characters. So yeah, community wise, I think it's very rare for a play as an actor who's like seen plays and seen some really great stuff and some not so great stuff. It's rare that, how can I explain it, like plays can cross into the world of culture as well. And I feel like this was a big cultural piece. Like a lot of the people that came to see this play were not people who see theatre. And that was such a big thing for it to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go see this play. It's like, oh, what's it called? Da 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 da. And culturally, like I'd see it on social media, and like obviously it was like marketed really well. You'd see it on the tube and on this and on that. And I feel like it really did a lot for the culture in terms of people feeling that they could be a part of this like moment. And like for me, I had a really lovely moment where, so we all have understudies, so like people who will go on if we're not feeling too well or if something's gone wrong or if we broke up our foot or whatever. And they also had planned days where they would have their night to go on. And my understudy, Mo, who's an absolute superstar, he went on as me and I got to watch it. But also it was really nice because I got to be in the environment. So like I particularly like went in with the theatre with everybody else and sat in the auditorium, like you said, like where they're playing Skepta, they're playing gigs, they're playing, you know, old school R&B and all of this stuff. And feeling that environment, I was so emotional because I was like, damn, like this is a West End theatre. Like you don't get this. Like it's a massive thing. A lot of people will come and see the show and chat to me afterwards and be like, oh, like take this around the world and like, you know, tour it, do this, do that, take it to schools. And I'm like, yeah, but also I feel like people need to feel comfortable taking up space in a West End theatre and actually go, yeah, we could take this around the world, but do I always constantly want to go and see a play in the West End and be the only black person in the audience? No. So let's make it more comfortable and more accessible for black people to come and watch these plays and not feel like, nah, I'm not going to go to that because I'm going to be the only person who looks like me in the audience. So that was a joy.
Yeah, I like that. It's good because I was one of those people who's like, this needs to go worldwide.
And it eventually, in whatever form you
can't
know,
imagine
if it does,
anything like that in America.
Yeah, and I feel like it would probably do quite well in America, but in the same vein, it's like, let's protect what we have here and make sure people are getting this opportunity. And it's sad because obviously the play got extended and still there were people who didn't get to see the play. So it's just one of those things. Yeah,
facts. But it was nice because loads of people messaged me because I did a review. Like, oh my gosh, you seen that as well? I seen that.
Yeah.
All these people, again, people that go to the theatre, people that don't go to the theatre.
Yeah, exactly.
So it definitely crossed over.
Yeah.
Did you expect such a diverse crowd?
You know what? No. And not as diverse as this time around was. Again, I worked in the theatre for the previous version and it was very black. It was very blackety black and that was great. But what was so crazy about this, and maybe it's about this critical acclaim, because it had done so well previously and then the reviews came out and it was doing well again, like, again, it's quite rare for a play to go away, come back, have a whole new cast, a whole new sort of direction with more like music, dance and that, and it's still to be reviewed so high. I think it meant that a lot of non-black people were coming to see what the hype was about. Okay, cool. Which meant that we would have some days where we're looking out at the crowd and you could barely see black people. And I'm like, golly! Like, where's this come from? Like, but actually, that's what, like I said at the beginning of this interview, like, that's what it's for. Like, yeah, come and be curious and yeah, come and find out because maybe you're never going to hear these words in any other setup. But that was a shift because if you've watched the play, you'll know there are kind of, I don't want to say like secret jokes, but there are black jokes that you know that are funny as a black person. So when you're doing that to non-black people, and again, this isn't trying to say like they shouldn't be there, it's just a funny dynamic where like there's an interval that we have halfway through the play and we'd be in our dressing rooms being like, damn, they weren't laughing at them ones, but it's just because they don't have references to it.
Of course. That's what's got to come from a black person.
Yeah.
So we discussed something just before about the community and maybe sometimes some of the split.
Yeah.
About, you know, who you feel don't rate as much and who do. So can you discuss that a bit more?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, we don't get a lot of opportunity. This is a thing that I feel all the time. Like, whenever I watch TV and film, and it's like a predominantly black thing, I put it on such a high pedestal because I'm like, yo, we might not get anything like this
Yeah,
again.
you better
So you
crush
better
it.
be good,
You better crush
not
it.
like average.
Yeah.
Good. And there's this whole thing, well, not even good, I'm about to say anyway. There's this whole thing about black excellence. You need to be excellent. You need to be the best of the best of the best and be grateful for being where you are. And the problem with that is sometimes we put things on such a high like regard that we don't allow it to breathe. And I feel like in the community, I read stuff online, like for me, people say, don't read reviews, don't read this. I can read it because I know the concept of why these things are being made, so I never take it personally. If someone was to say, oh, you're not a great actor, I'd be like, that's fair if that's your opinion. It's not going to change me doing this career. But online, I think there was probably a big shift in the community because the show is full for black boys. A lot of very valid comments were, okay, what about black women? And what about this? And very valid conversations.
I don't think that's a valid conversation.
No,
at all.
it is. It is a valid conversation in the sense that we don't talk about that enough. What's not
That's
valid,
true.
what's not valid is the idea that because we're talking something that is pro-black people, we're not anti-black. Pro-black men is not anti-black women.
But as you said quite rightly, for black boys, and I knew this as well,
Yeah.
actually came from a script and play about black women.
Black women, yeah.
So this is the hypocrisy,
yeah,
and it just stuff like that just annoys me so much.
yeah.
Because this is like I'm in the coaching industry, right? And there's all of these coaches for women, women in business, women empowerment. That's getting a huge push at the moment. And so, quite rightly, that doesn't offend me at all. But the fact that my coaching business is for men, I remember I spoke to I was at a work event, and I spoke to this like women's shelter. And I was like, that's amazing that yours is just for women. I was like, I'm just about to open up a business for women. They literally scolded at me.
Yeah.
And I sometimes get comments to my videos like, oh, this is so sexist, this is this is that. I said, what have I said that's sexist? Oh, why don't you open it up to women? I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
There's barely any services for men alone.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I even coach men alone, or I just keep it general.
I think for all of these things, it's about opening up the conversation and allowing people to have a space to talk and feel comfortable. Like, in the same way, like, we were having this conversation about how some people go, why is it called For Black Boys? Why is it not for this and for that? And actually, you need a space to feel comfortable. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. You need a space to feel comfortable. And actually, it's like if you had a very rare illness and you went to the doctors and the doctor just gives you some generic, put this cream on it. I mean, the amount of times I've been told to put cream on something that I've had issues. Put this cream on it and it will solve it. Oh, is this specifically for my thing? No, it's not. But 1 out of 10 people, it will probably work for.
We've got to include everyone.
Yeah, we got to include everyone because you know what? Everyone needs this cream, so everyone should use it. The reality is that some things need to be specific. Otherwise, we're all going to be living life in these very unique circumstances, but never having a place to talk about it. And just so happens, we were speaking about this for black men, and that doesn't mean in any way it detracts from the work of any other culture.
Men's mental health is an all-time low, when the suicide rates are an all-time high, and even for men as well.
Yeah.
Black men aren't known to be the ones that are crashing out. Black men are crashing out now at all-time high as well.
Yeah.
So that's why it needs to be spoken about,
100%.
and it still doesn't register in some people's brain, and that just winds me up.
Yeah,
You're a lot more calm.
I think also because it's got to the point where it's like
we said, and I say this in all my coaching videos, why on earth was something being pro-men is anti-women?
Yeah.
It's like how gay marriages don't affect straight marriages. Like, there's no need to combat.
Yeah.
Like, let both.
But I think what happens sometimes is it's interesting. It kind of comes to, we use this term when we were reading. I can't remember why it came up, but when we were doing our table read, we sometimes talk about like trauma Olympics, and sometimes when you've gone through a trauma as a culture or a society, all you want is the validation that you're heard. And like, you know, as women have, I can't, as a man, I can't speak for women's rights and struggles, but I'm very aware that there was an inequality, and there still is, for many things.
But you can as an ethnic minority.
But then this is my thing that we get into Trauma Olympics, where we then start trading cards of going, me as this, me as that, me as this. And the reality is, we're all going through traumas based on our sexuality, our gender, our race, our religion, any of these things. And it's not about saying one is important, it's about, can we have spaces where people can talk about it? Because actually, the biggest issue is that we're all trying to shout and have the loudest voice so people go, yeah, I agree with that person. But actually, the reality is we just need really, I don't like using the word safe space, because I feel like it comes with a connotation. If you're an actor or creative, you've probably heard it so many times, let's build a safe space. But actually, you need to build a comfortable environment that is accessible for people to go. In the same way, if you're an alcoholic, you have like AA, right? And those spaces, they're judgment free, they're nothing, they're just for you to come and talk. But you wouldn't turn up to an Alcoholics Anonymous and then be like, where is the place for people who have gambling addictions? Go and find that place and have space there.
But this is what I'm saying. I might have my opinions, right? I might have my opinions, but like Step Up Unfiltered is for anybody, any background, any race. You might have opposing views to me. Let's talk about it. We might have a debate. Keep it cool, keep it casual. Like, even when I've gone on these debate shows where it can get crazy, I still, every single time I've been on it, everybody leaves being friends. And I think it's about how you conduct yourself.
100%.
I run a men's mental health group called Talk Club, which is a free men's talk group, and it's where just men can talk and listen to each other. And as you say, you shut all of that down. It's a place where men can be men, discuss all the things that you want to discuss. No alcohol, no booze. Just talk openly and freely, and make sure you listen to other people. And I completely agree with you, but that's what annoys me, is when you're trying to shut somebody else down. You're trying to do a good thing. Because one, you're being offended over nothing. Or two, because as you say, you want to scream the loudest. And it's like, no, just try to recognise that that person's trying to do a good thing for this particular thing.
And that's where, I mean, that's so amazing, the work you're doing about getting men to chat. And this is why it's so important to have these. And I think people see it as like, oh, it's division, and it's like, this is recreating divides and slavery's coming back. And I'm like, please, just chill out. Like, you need to have spaces for people who go through things like you, so that you can just go, I'm seen. I may not even want to say, I might come to your chat and not even say anything, but just hearing other people talk has done so much for me. And I feel like that's what the play was so good at doing, is that actually, I know that it's probably so many men that maybe came to see the play that may not still have been ready to open up yet. And like, I've got friends and I've seen people, grown men, 6'5", big men, after the show in tears.
Oh, of course.
In tears.
It touches you.
Like, broken down. And I think someone told me a story about my mate was sitting there at they came to see the play and was sitting next to this couple, and the guy was like vexed the whole time, just like not. And then by the end of it was like just crying, and literally his girlfriend just put her hand on his shoulder and didn't say anything. And she was like, do you want to go? He's like, no, I need some time. And that's all you can ask for.
That's beautiful.
Is that you're starting the conversation, you know?
You are, It's crazy, man. It was very, very moving. It's very touching. And the thing about that as well, it's not about just learning other people's perspectives. You learn so much about yourself.
100%.
You're like, damn, that character, I was a little bit of a bad boy on those days. Like, oh wow, honestly, it's honestly, and I'm gonna give you guys your flowers, that was the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, thank you.
And honestly, and that's the weird thing, it's not got your blockbuster The Rock or my favourite actors in it. I was just so shocked, because I expected nothing. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, why am I in the theatre? And then I went and I was
that's
like,
real,
I was halfway
bro.
through, I was like, you lot smashed it.
Big ups, man.
My mum and dad's there like, we did it right.
Nice.
But honestly, man, it was the best thing I've ever seen, bro.
Bless you, bro. Thank you.
Keep killing it, man. Keep killing it. So I know we kind of touched on this, but thoughts on the portrayal of black issues in general, and is that a big thing in the entertainment industry? It's a bit of a two-winded question.
So I think it goes back to what I was saying about this thing. We had it's another conversation that we had again. It goes back to what I was saying about black excellence and this idea that like when we're doing things, it has to be the best. We have to make sure we're the best of the best. You know, you've got to be ready to work twice as hard as anybody else. And actually, I was saying this when we had a table read very early on in the process. What about black mediocrity? Like, what about just being black average? And it's not about necessarily not doing the work. And this isn't me saying, like, don't achieve anything in your life. But especially in the creative industry, there is a lot of very average work that gets regarded so well and gets a chance to be put on. Like, for a lot of the amazing things that get put on that are black specific, you probably will never see it again. There is a world in which maybe the one person who really like rooted for Black Boys when it first came on didn't see a show, and maybe For Black Boys would never be what it is now. The reality is you have to trust that someone's going to have your back to get to where you are. I think now we're getting there a little bit better, but then I'm also such a hard balance, man. I'm also a bit tired. I'm a bit tired of watching plays that have black trauma, and that's not just plays. That's like TV shows, and like
it's not really ever uplifting.
Yeah, I'm good. Like there's an amazing play that was on at the Bush Theatre called Shifters, and it's about to go to the West End. And I'm so happy because it's an amazing play. These amazing actors, Tosin and Heather, who are in it, and Tosin is in Supercell as well. He's the lead in it, and so beautiful because it's just a play about like essentially black love, and it's just beautiful, and it touches on so much without us having to get lost in what sometimes comes like just like watching trauma and enjoying.
Usually a black love would be a flipper.
Yeah.
The black guy.
Something
like,
went wrong. No,
like
it's
that,
like
yeah.
actually.
That Denzel Washington film. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
exactly. And actually, like,
Good film.
the play shows the ups and downs of relationships, but actually that story is universal. It just so happens to be from the lens of a black couple.
So can I ask you a question then? So what do you say to the people? So I did a piece on this, bit of journalism, on I don't know if you saw the conversation between Eni Aluka and Andrew Gold, and it was about DEI.
No.
So what's your thoughts on that? Because obviously people kind of complain that, like, I guess some people would say now all you see on adverts is black people. All you see, I'm not gonna lie, like it has a shift has occurred.
Yeah.
Even like Love Island now, like a lot of the cast is black. Like, a lot of the cast is black. So what do you say to those people that just feel like black people are getting opportunities outside of merit to make the numbers?
Oof. Well, we got to remember the system was never really made for us.
Of course.
It never is. There's always been an inequality, and there always will be. That's just the reality of life. I think there is a balance between wanting to see more faces that look like you and be represented, which also has to link with a representation of going, are these people actually on here because they're talented or because they're ticking a box? It's a complicated conversation because there's a thing in acting called blind casting, where the idea is that everyone will go up for a role and there will be no specific. Usually when you go up for something, you get a breakdown of what the casting is. So they're looking for like a black male in their 20s. But this one, exactly, like modelling. But for blind casting, they'll get a bunch of people who look completely different. Because the biggest thing is that when you go up for castings, you'll go into a room and see like 10 people who look like you.
Yeah, of course.
But in this one, it's a random amount of people. And the idea is that they're finding the right person, not the look. But then contextually, the look does make such a difference.
Yeah, there's always gonna be
so, I don't know. For some things it can work, for some things it can't work. I do feel like we're in an age now where it's like we can't only be seeing one thing online, but another thing when you're walking down the street. So there's a balance, I think.
So that's interesting. So the way I answered it, I was just like pretty ruthless in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I just said, look, at the end of the day, I think DI in some way should be kind of scrapped.
Yeah.
Because I just want everybody to do it in merit, and I personally believe in black people enough to be able to be good enough to be put in
100%.
merit. The problem that you've got is in stuff like sport, where it's basically kind of based on skill. You're going to get those opportunities regardless if you're white or black.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas something like CEOs in a boardroom, which is based off popularity,
Yeah.
black people or ethnic minorities aren't going to get those roles. And that's what
100%.
people need to understand when they say scrap DEI. I'm a big fan of that, but you need to understand the flip side
Yeah.
of it. And when it comes to, I'm sorry to say this, when it comes to certain things like contact sports, when it comes to anything that's kind of like culture related, singing, acting, rapping, if you base it on the proportion of people in the country, because what black people make up 3% of the UK, you're always going to get an unproportionate number of black people in those roles because that's what black people are good at.
Yeah.
Or, unfortunately, because black families don't always push their kids for the educational role because of circumstances, they go to those type of fields.
100%.
But that's what black people have always been good
Yeah.
at. Even when there were nowhere near as many opportunities, because
Yeah.
Andrew Gold was like, yes, I agree, 20 years ago there were no opportunities for black people. But then who's your
Yeah.
highest grossing actor?
Exactly.
Will Smith.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
So that's just what a lot of black people are good at.
Yeah.
So, like, you can complain about it all you like, but there's certain things which are always going to be unproportionate.
100%.
And yet,
yeah.
so black people should get those roles.
Yeah.
That was it was a bit of a balanced argument.
No,
but I
it
think it's
is.
fair.
What you touched on about like the CEO stuff and who they're going to go for, that's a really important thing in acting, I think, in terms of, okay, maybe on screen we're not seeing enough casting of these people, but where are you searching? Like, I knew someone who, they were looking for a play of people that were Tibetan, I think, or somewhere from East Asia. It was a very specific play that had to have people that were from this place. And they were just like, oh yeah, we've looked at the people that we know and we haven't found anyone. I'm like, yeah, but these are the people you know. Obviously you're gonna have a very non-diverse collection because you've been going to the same 5 people all the time. Why aren't you reaching out and outreaching to find actually who are some new talents that we don't know? And I think that's what's so important, is like, behind the scenes, what's the work we're doing to encourage more people to be in?
Love that. Good answer. I'm going to ask you a very quick question because we've got literally 38 seconds. Who was your biggest coach or mentor? I know that probably could be a longer question, but just a quick one.
Yeah, I mean, I've had loads. Probably like my first A-level teacher. Yeah, I've had loads. I don't think there's been one person that's done everything for me.
Different dynamics.
There's been
and
different
whatnot.
dynamics along the way, and some people you meet, you're like, where have you been all my life? Like, how have you not been there? There's some people you're like, yeah, I don't want to chat to you again. So I feel like, yeah, it's always a range.
Love
So
that. We are back for the last segment of the show. What did you just say?
quick.
Time
has
always
flown.
goes quick, man. That's the problem. These shows need to be longer.
Yeah,
We need a longer slot.
Great stuff, man.
Honestly, so good talking to you, man. I've got so many questions that I'm not even gonna get to answer, but we're gonna fly through some of these, right? So, can you tell us, mere mortals?
Not mere
I'm
mortals.
joking. We're not. We're amazing people. Can you tell us what the acting industry is really like behind the scenes?
I mean, I've had an interesting journey of being, obviously when you're in a West End play you see a lot more, but then versus auditioning for stuff before I went to drama school is interesting. I think a lot of it is very specific to the kind of things that you're in. If I had just done a Shakespeare play versus me doing for Black Boys, obviously I'm going to have experienced a lot of different kind of things. But I think in general, there's a lot of people who care about the industry. Sadly, in most professions, there's people who will do whatever they can to not do the work. who won't have the same energy, but I think you have to learn to just navigate that and navigate that lot. Everyone's gonna be in it for the reasons that you're in it, but so far I've been grateful for having the people around me. That's kept me grounded. Yeah.
So is it as like bitchy and catty as we hear?
Nah, I don't think so. I think you can find that if you're looking for it, 100%. Like in anything, if you look for it enough, you'll find it. But maybe because I surround myself around people who, and maybe the projects I surround myself with doesn't tend to be that. Sometimes you'll get people who are sort of connected to it in some way, trying to bring their own thing, but you have to tell yourself, look, that's not what I'm here for. But in my perspective, look, I'm still a newbie in the grand scheme of things, but I haven't seen anything that's been that crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good. I hope it stays like that.
Yeah, me too.
Have you ever, I guess this is your first main gig, isn't it? But okay, so how would you approach being casted in a big role that you didn't agree with?
Ooh, good question.
I know you said that obviously the role that you've just been in is slightly different, but obviously that's always going to happen. But a role that you didn't agree with, whether that was gender, sexuality, race, political stance,
usually these are the conversations you have with your agent before you get into those rooms.
Okay.
Like I've had roles in the past that I've been like, oh, don't think I want to do this, especially like for my first role or something like this on TV. Like I don't think I want to be seen in this light or that light. And I mean, it's quite rare because there are most things that I go, there's not really anything that I wouldn't really do. I mean, really, one of the big ones is like, I don't want to be in no slavery play. Like that'd be a big one. But other than that, I don't think there is necessarily a world in which I'd be on a project not knowing that this isn't something I'd want to be part of. So I think having those conversations, this is why like having a good team and having good agents is so beneficial, because you need someone you can just be real and be like, look, yo, this isn't for me. Like, give it to someone else that can do a better job of it as well, because they care about it. So yeah, it's just making sure that whatever you do, you care about it.
And a silly question, but why slave? Why is that the one thing that really reaches out to you?
I just think maybe I'll take that back and I'll bite my words, because who knows what the next job will be, and maybe I'll just be like, oh, actually no, I will take it. But I think maybe slavery is not actually the thing. It's more black trauma. I feel like I don't want to be in a production, a play, a TV show that isn't trying to either counteract that idea.
I was about to say, because for black boys, but you're counteracting.
We're counteracting it. Cool. I don't want to be on something where I feel like I'm just making a mockery or highlighting something without a purpose. I think that's so important.
Love that. Now these are going to be slightly quicker questions. Favorite movie?
Ooh.
From the actor himself.
Interstellar's up there. So it's a Christopher Nolan film. It's got Matthew McConaughey.
I know, yeah. It's quite is it quite recent?
No, I think it came out like 20. Say favorite film, I don't know when it came out. In the 2010s, I'm pretty sure.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Seen it on like the players and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's about this guy who basically goes out and it's like a space film, but he discovers things along the way in this sort of otherworldly stuff. But it's just so beautifully like shot, written. The score for it is amazing. So yeah, that'll probably be up there.
I just find it interesting, like listening to like an actor or my friend in rapper now. You guys talk about it so in depth compared to like the comment.
I know.
You just need to hear like a good flow, a good beat.
Yeah, it's true. You wouldn't think of it.
That's like,
I say the
really
next close after Interstellar is probably The Matrix. So it would be one of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. What do you think about like city? Do you like comedies?
Yeah, I love a comedy.
White Chicks?
Yeah.
Rush Hour?
Come on.
That's my favourite.
Yeah, I love those kind of ones. But yeah, I'm a sucker for
obviously you like
sci-fi and
you're
like
proper,
deep
proper,
stuff.
well written, well produced.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. Favourite actor or actress?
Hands down, Robin Williams.
Mm.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people know him from like Mrs. Doubtfire and all of these kind of films, Jumanji, but also those are such like incredible films as well. But I think whenever someone asks me, the reason why I say this is because he always had a level of like play in whatever he did. It was like he's doing this because he loves it, and that's why I do it. And I never want to get to a point where I'm doing it for the money or for the clout, the fame. And it's so sad that obviously he was such an amazing talent and obviously like passed away and everything that happened. But yeah, he's got, and some of his deep cut films that people may not have seen, like Bicentennial Man, where he like plays a robot, or there's a film called Jack where he has this like rare condition where he's like born as a 40-year-old looking man. Like it's just so many things where he's brought such heart into it, and yeah, hands down my favorite actor.
Nice, love that. And favorite TV show?
Ooh.
This could be series or this could be a one-off.
See, my gut would say Friends because it's probably the thing that I've watched the most in life. But I don't know if it's my favorite or it's just something, because I really can't watch Friends now because I've watched it too much. Yeah. We'll say Friends. We'll say
I feel like
Friends.
mine are so basic compared to yours.
Yeah.
Mine's like Power.
I mean, like,
I'm still watching the.
Mad. I've
the
actually
other
never
sequels.
properly watched it.
Love Power. Love the difference in answers. But what do you think about like I feel like everybody does this, like when they go to uni, everyone wants to watch like the top 10 films ever made.
Yeah.
So what do you think about like the Shawshank Redemptions, the City of
what?
God?
This is very controversial, but a lot of those films I haven't seen. Like, yeah. So like either some that I've seen when I was younger because I like ended up watching it like my mum or something.
Yeah.
But there's loads of stuff that I haven't in my recent years rewatched. So I think at some point I'm gonna have to do that for myself and rewatch it.
Yeah.
Obviously there's some like classics that I've seen, but
Schneider's List?
no, never seen it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know what you think about those type of films.
Yeah.
They're critically rated the best.
I know. I think maybe that's what it is as well. Sometimes I get really put off by things that are like I'm forced to watch. Especially when things are like hyped and it's like, you need to watch this. I'm like, I don't want to. I'll watch it when I'm ready. So more people tell me to watch something. But no, I need to. Actually, I need to. Because a lot of these films, like there's a film called 2001 A Space Odyssey. And that was the base of so many like sci-fi stuff. So actually, it's nice to go back and watch things and see how they're the influence.
Yeah.
Same like music.
Of course, yeah, the original.
Yeah, the original, yeah.
So, we slightly touched on this in the interval, but what is your thoughts on Alec Baldwin? The incident on set where he accidentally obviously shot someone, killed them.
It's so interesting. In drama school, we get trained like stage combat. So that's like how to, fake a punch and all these kind of things. And in all of these things, there's always like a level of safety. There's always a level of, we're doing this knowing it's not real. We're gonna have precautions on stage and on set and whatever. And that sadly was just a moment where that clearly just wasn't adhered to. Like there wasn't enough protection for both him as the actor and for everyone that was on set. Like it's so tragic that someone.
So do you think that he deserved to get he got 2 trials?
Yeah.
He got 2 trials, so they tried to do him in twice.
I think
He got found not guilty. He got a lot of stick.
I would say if he wasn't Alec Baldwin, it'd be a whole different conversation because we probably wouldn't be talking about it as much and looking so in detail to it. If it was some
Agreed.
new actor, it probably wouldn't be a thing. But I think it's also good that we are, because it helps if there are ever, and God forbid there's never is, but situations where something like this happens, it's about knowing every single angle of why this happened. And actually sometimes these things do need to be cross-examined, because I don't think that there was ever any ill intention, but you never know for the future. In the world that we're living, you never know. There could be someone out here swapping your guns because I don't like that person for what they've done for me. So I think it was better for it to be examined than it was. People's opinions is irrelevant.
But you know what? Like, I'm not gonna lie. My opinion was quite strong. I felt really bad for him.
Yeah.
So I felt like it could just happen to anyone, and like his family are going through it. He's got random people trying to do the utmost, or trying to get their little viral clip.
Yeah.
People screaming at him like walking down the street as a murderer when he's not. And I just thought like, I was like, people just need to like, that can happen to you. That can happen to anybody.
So
It could literally
true.
happen to. I felt really, really bad for him, and I don't know the guy. I've seen a couple of his movies. I don't have any emotional connection, but I just felt it was really harsh. I know it was so clearly a mistake for him to go to prison for that, and lose his family and stuff like that. For me, it's just that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It was clearly a mistake.
It was a lot, and I think you said it. It's true.
And you know, my next question was, what protocols do you think might needs to be on set to ensure safety? But I think you pretty much answered that. I think they just are. It was just one unfortunate
event. Yeah, really, really, really unfortunate. Yeah.
So the Don, Donald Trump, Donald J. Trump.
Not the Don.
The Don was shot. Madness.
Mm.
I'm not gonna lie, I was at a rave in Ibiza, and I heard that Donald Trump had been shot, and I was like, yo, have I drunk too much?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, yo, let me get back to the party. But like, what? I was like, sure. I'm like, bro, like, have you drunk too much?
Yeah.
I was like, what are you on? And then yeah, you see him there, survives it, like the cat of nine lives. Comes out, puts a fist in the air like he's doing Black Power.
Yeah, literally. He was
Fight,
like, do you know what he was like? He was like, I know this is gonna be in the history books, so I'm gonna get my moment. Where's that camera? Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm not gonna lie. Whether you hate Trump, whether you love Trump, that was pretty gangster.
I mean, the
That
guy
was
knows
gangster.
what he's doing.
That was gangster.
The guy knows what he's
Like,
doing.
like, you're not supposed to pop up in the air. Man just came out. Black Power. Did you hear what 50 Cent did?
No.
Oh my days. I mean, you must have seen the cover of Get Rich or Die Trying.
Yeah, of
50
course.
just looking head.
Yeah.
He put Donald Trump's face on it.
Stop.
So that's got like 255,000 streams since that's happened. And he came out to many men with
Yeah,
that.
I saw. Yeah, that is
I just
mad.
see, like Charlamagne the God was like, you know what needs to happen now. Donald Trump, if he wants a black vote, Donald Trump just comes out to many men.
Yeah,
That
and he
would
did
be
it.
hilarious. Imagine if Donald Trump comes out to many men though. That's what he was saying.
But didn't that happen?
I don't think so.
I'm sure I've seen a video, unless that
50 came out to it, unless Donald's done it.
I don't know if it was edited, but I've seen a
Oh,
video
probably,
where
yeah,
he's
probably
coming,
edited.
or maybe it's edited. But yeah,
If that happens, I'm not gonna lie. I know he's gonna secure the black vote.
yeah, that's mad.
Black people are slaves for the smallest.
Yeah, I mean, we really are. We'll see that and we'll be like, oh.
But what was your thoughts on him getting shot?
Yeah, mad. Obviously, I don't condone gun violence or any of that stuff, and I feel like America's got a lot of work to do with that.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other conversation. But for me, I'll be real, it's quite baffling that in this 2024, big president, ex-president, that still has Secret Service. I can't remember what the stats are, but I think you get Secret Service for X amount of years after you're still the president.
Loads, yeah.
I don't know how that happened. I'll be really real. This isn't me starting
I was about to say, there's a big
theory,
conspiracy theory, you know?
but I don't know how that happened. I don't know how.
And people alerted people alerted the police and what
Ahead of
2
time.
minutes before. 2 minutes before.
And there's videos where you can see the like snipers they had on the roof
Crazy,
facing towards where the target was coming from. So I suppose there is, like, I've in previous jobs that I've worked at, I've done like, it's nowhere near close to this, but I've done like crisis management about like what you do in an event of this and that. And they say to you, obviously the biggest thing that you want to do is diffuse a situation.
Yeah.
You don't want to cause panic, because the panic of them being like gun, everyone in that rally could have gotten up, and then you've got stampedes and you've got all these other things you have to worry about.
But that's also what they said about the sniper, didn't they? They said the sniper didn't want to do it because the amount of times that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And then he's sent to prison for the rest of life.
Exactly.
He's ruined his family.
Yeah.
If he got it wrong, if he got the call wrong,
Exactly.
it was just some kid without a gun.
Yeah.
It's a hard one, but
It's a hard one, but then I also go, these people, especially Secret Service, they are trained to go hundreds of different scenarios of what could happen. And you're telling me you let someone get that close? Like, your job is literally to come in before the event happens and go, that's a target, that's a target, that's a target. Let's look after that. So fair what you said. You don't want to make the wrong call. But if people are screaming gun, if people are, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's a conspiracy, but for me,
something's a bit fishy.
It's a bit, because I mean the optics of it look great. Even the fact of him doing that now iconic pose. It's just, I mean, to be fair, if it was anyone else, I wouldn't actually be that surprised because that's Trump. He would just do that. Like, he would have done that if he didn't get shot. But yeah, something just feels a bit too suspect for me.
It was, his reaction was just actually made me cry.
Yeah,
like, literally genuine tears.
It's the way he comes out so strong with it as well.
Fight.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Will Smith. Slap. Thoughts.
So I watched that live.
Really?
So I was in drama school still. This was, when that happened last year, the year before. Year before. So I got everyone to come around to my house to watch the Oscars, and I found a live stream of it. We streamed it live, so it ended up meaning that we were watching it at like 2 a.m. in order for it to be at the same time as America. And I remember so vividly, we were all sitting there, there was about 8 of us in my house, sitting in the living room, watching it on a projector. And the moment happened, and for some reason, because everyone was getting quite tired, we'd been up so late, for some reason everyone was up. And then we looked at him and went, oh, that's a funny bit. And then what you wouldn't have seen is the whole transmission cut out if you were watching it live. Yeah. So the slap happened, there was a thing, and then it came back, and it was just Chris Rock just looking like shell-shocked.
Wow.
And I remember and that was the only thing that made me go, oh no, that was real. Because it was the way the stream just cut. And it wasn't like the website I was watching it on getting cut or whatever. It was, you could see they went, cut the cameras, and then like brought it back and like edited it or something. But yeah, mad. I don't condone that at all. I don't condone him doing that.
That's stupid.
I feel like we're in I say we're in an industry. I'm obviously at the moment nowhere near where Will Smith is in his career, but I feel like you've got to be ready for people to take fun out of the craziness that is the lives of celebrities and actors, right? We've all chosen, the people that choose to do this career, to know that there's a big possibility your entire life is going to be for the public,
of
right?
Course, yeah.
So there's decisions that you make, you have to know they have an effect, and someone might end up talking about it. So if you go out having entanglements and all other things,
he has been the biggest joke on his life.
Yeah, and you allow that, and then you make a talk show
where you're
going to do all of that. You can't now be mad if someone wants to make a small joke about things, and
it wasn't even about that.
It wasn't even about
Joe joke.
Yeah, and it's fine. Like, I get it, the context behind it, and you know, apparently Jada's had. Well, no, it's not apparently. Jada's been diagnosed with alopecia. There's a whole thing. But like, you've come to an award show.
Literally.
You know that's, if you're sitting in that front row as well, there's a big possibility you're going to be in this show.
But my problem was, and this is what I want to ask you, because this is the bigger question. Would he have done it, 1, if it was The Rock, and 2, if it was a Mark Wahlberg? Because I don't think he would have.
I actually think he would have.
No.
I actually think in that moment, I think he thought, he wouldn't have necessarily, maybe he wouldn't have tried to slap them, whatever. I think he thought he was doing something. I think he thought this was a moment for me to like prove myself.
You know, I mean, for me, unless something has happened that's that bad, you never ever hit someone smaller than you.
Yeah, it's
you
true.
Never ever hit someone smaller than you. That was just, that was an awful move.
Yeah.
It made him actually just look like a bully. And that's what we have, if anything, considering him everything not to be.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it was interesting.
He has been the face of black excellence.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so,
it's true. But I don't think he was in a right mind, is why I'm saying that. Because what would possess you knowing that you've got cameras? Or, I mean, not to go back to conspiracies, I thought that was fake for ages. And I was just like, clearly just something isn't there, yeah.
That was real. That was definitely real. Definitely real. Something that was quite interesting, actually, I saw, to be fair, it was a fake newspaper headline, I think, from The Sun. But she's been getting a bit of stick. So Grace from Love Island, I know you don't watch it. But she's a blonde girl, blue eyes. Some may say Aryan looking.
Oh.
But she's a very good looking girl.
Dr. Umar would say.
Don't come near me, Grace, because I don't want Dr. Umar on my tongue.
Dr. Umar.
But her, you know, she was getting with Joey Essex, but she actually said her type was black guys.
Okay.
And Joey Essex left her for a different girl. So
Because of that comment?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
I know.
I don't watch Love Island, so I
really
don't know these
how
people.
he felt about her type not being
Oh,
him.
okay, cool.
But I understand that. I'd want my girl's type being me, so I kind of get it. But no, he went to another girl. He was smitten off her, but went to another girl. And she's, you know, she's been enjoying herself, exploring her options with a particular type of man.
Okay.
And you know, she's kissed a few, few blacks.
Yeah.
And I think it's that age-old argument where, you know, some white people have a problem with it. And it's just like, we're in 2024 now.
Yeah.
I remember that was the thing back in my day, when I was younger. Because it was like, she must love black guys. Like, she's getting with Nathan. Oh, yeah, she's got to love black guys. You know what I mean? I just wondered what your thought of that, what the perception is. Is it because she's blonde and blue eyes, subconsciously, compared to like someone that's maybe got darker features?
Yeah.
Or do you think it's just a complete race thing? And I don't understand why that's always been such a thing. I know white guys that are, like, would be seriously put off if they found out that their ex had been with a black guy.
Wow.
Big question.
Yeah, I think there's so many different areas that this goes down, like society, like how we're viewed, and this. This is.
And do you know what's the worst thing is? Even if you're friends with black people, some people still have that like.
I think there's this whole thing about what I always say is like it's like appropriation versus appreciation, right? There's a lot of people who appreciate black culture and care about it deeply. You talk about your best mate and all these kind of things of like, you know, where he didn't want other people using the N-word.
Yeah.
I've got like my closest mate, he's half Irish, half Chinese, like, and we both know as like minorities, but also as people from different areas, like there is a big thing of like appropriating a culture and being like, I want to be this guy, versus someone who, like me, like I said, I grew up in an area where all I know is multicultural. So if I was to date someone who's not in my race, it's not necessarily because I'm seeking that out because I love it. It's because it's just what I've grown up around. It's my culture. And I feel like some people who say that just like to say that for buzzwords and to look good, but who cares, man? Like, if she wants to date black guys, let her date black guys. Like, how is that affecting your life? If she's going around dating black guys and saying problematic stuff, then we go, okay, what's going on? But from the basis of it, I mean, there is that as well, though, because some people like to use the fact that they're dating and be like, my black boyfriend.
Yeah, I see. Do you know what? I said this on a previous episode, and I had my, I had the black TikTok star, Young CEO certified, and he's blown up. And one of his things, he comes out and black women feel like he's against it, but he openly says he prefers white women.
Yeah.
And he gets a lot of stick about it. I mean, I think black women are now warm to him, but he got a lot of stick when he said it, and he gave his reasons about less combative, less this, less that.
Yeah.
But like for me, I was just saying, like for me, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's more about what the girl, her values are. Like if I find her attractive,
yeah, exactly.
It's not about all the.
But also, there's so much unlearning.
Oh, sorry. This is the second part. We both did say, like, I wouldn't want to just like get, let's say, with a white girl that only dates black guys. At least some chunks of those in there, because I don't want to be fetishized. Because at that point,
that's a big thing.
Because at that point, you become a fetish.
Now that's a huge thing.
Any black guy. Yeah. Any black guy goes.
But also, I don't want to take out like loads of random statistics, but I would say there's a high chance that more than 80%, not 80% is probably a lot, a high percentage of black men have experienced being fetishized.
Of course, yeah.
Whether they know it or don't know it,
of course,
they felt something weird.
Yeah.
So my thing with that is, you know, keep it, you gotta be aware of it, but yeah. Yeah, like,
It is bad,
that's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
I know. There's so many different conversations that we can go into. However, we've got a minute left. I want to ask you a quick question and then see if there's anything you want to plug. What's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody in your situation?
Keep being curious, man. Keep experiencing life and keep discovering new things. I feel like, yeah, as grateful as I am doing this show, I'm so grateful for like the things to come, and yeah, and like thank you for having me here, man.
Of
because
course,
it's
man,
been-
you killed
been
it.
Amazing, man.
Is there anything that you want to plug? Sorry.
Nah, nothing really. I mean, like, follow me on social media if you want to. I mean, like, I'm kind of like not always on there posting, but yeah.
What's your socials?
So Shaquille, SHAKWEL.Hakim, HAAKIM.